Hi, I'm Samantha Cotterill, and I'd love to invite you to join me for my upcoming workshop, Paper Stories, Crafting 3D Dioramas for Illustration and Children's Books. This is a class about building tiny worlds. Imagine making a little theater stage out of paper and foam board, and then filling it with cutout trees, characters, skies, shadows, and finally bringing it all to life with light and photography. Over 2 weeks, I'll walk you through the whole process. You're going to learn how to sketch and design your scene, how to paint textures and play with paper, how to cut, fold, and build your stage, how to light your set like a little film studio, and finally, how to photograph it beautifully so it looks just as magical on screen or in print as it does in your hands. Don't worry if you've never done anything like this before. Everything is broken down step by step with videos, templates, plenty of encouragement, and lots of live interaction. By the end, you will have your very own finished 3D diorama, a miniature theater for your story to live inside. And the best part? We'll finish a little diorama party where everyone can share their creations, cheer each other on, and celebrate the joy of making something by hand. So if you love storytelling, illustration, or just the sheer delight of scissors, glue, and paper, come join me and let's build a tiny paper world together.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to 3 Point Perspective, the podcast about illustration, how to do it, how to make a living at it, and how to make an impact in the world with your art. I'm Jake Parker.
And I'm Lee White.
And today we are interviewing Jason Chin. He is an illustrator based in Vermont. And you might know him from his Caldecott winning book, Watercress, and his Caldecott honor book, Grand Canyon. The book that I absolutely adore and love, I didn't get a chance to tell him this in the interview, is the one about the life of a whale and what happens after a whale dies and how integral it is to the sea's ecology. But that's what's cool about, he's really found a niche in children's books, and it's like he's going to be the he's like, I'll be the National Geographic reporter for children's books, essentially. Would you agree with that?
Good analogy. He's doing basically nonfiction, or if it is fiction, it's kind of weaved into some non-fictional kind of topic.
Yeah, reality stuff.
Science kind of stuff, but then with sort of human heartstring tugging at your family stories that are mixed in with the science. So it's not just an educational book like you'd get in a textbook or something.
Right, exactly. And what's cool about this interview too is we get into his sort of back history of how he went from art student to children's book illustrator. And one of some of the key things that he did, we kind of joke about some of the lucky stuff that happened with him, but the cool thing I think about this story of his is he totally made the luck happen. If he wasn't doing the things he was doing deliberately, he wouldn't have had some of these lucky breaks. And so we get into that. What was one of your big takeaways from this interview, Lee?
Like you said, he found where he fit perfectly, and stay and really just played in that lane, and that's sort of his thing. And he does the same thing. Yeah. It's very consistent sort of approach. I think he got into it before like we talk about in the interviews, like social media and all this stuff, pulling you in all these different directions. He's not paying attention to that. He's doing his thing, and he does it really, really well.
Yeah. Yep. If you compare it to us, it's like 2 children's books. I'm done with children's books. I'm going to do a comic. 2 comic books later.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to design a board game.
I'm all over the place.
He's just like,
gallery show. Like,
right.
Well, all the successful people that we've interviewed tend to have his model. That's why we're not successful.
You could do
stuff
a
all
lot
over
of
the
things
place.
kind of well, or you could do one thing really well. So,
right.
All right, let's jump into the interview.
I mean, that's a great starting point. So you started out in New York, and then and now you're in Vermont. How did that sort of path? Just the big sort of overview of sort of where you started and how you ended up where you are. would be awesome.
Yeah. So it started for me, in high school, actually, or maybe before that. So I grew up in New Hampshire, and I lived in a small town that was the home of a picture book illustrator. Her name was Trina Shart Hyman. I don't know if you're familiar with her work, but for
I
the
know that name.
viewers,
That sounds familiar.
this is her work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that book.
There you go.
And she lived in your town?
She lived in my town, so
Wow.
or I lived in her town. We moved there in 1987. I was in second grade, and she came to visit the elementary school every year. And she was kind of a local celebrity. She won the Caldecott medal in '86. So I moved there. I didn't know this. I didn't know what the Caldecott was, but then she came to present at our school, and then I learned, you can get medals for art. That's awesome.
And were you already drawing at that point?
Yeah,
I
was the story. All of our stories. We were the class artists when we were kids, right?
Not me. I didn't draw as a kid, so I'm jealous. I'm so.
You came to it later.
I didn't draw until I was an adult. At all, like zero.
Wow.
And so it's always interesting to me to hear people like you and Jake, like where you're in your rooms, copying comic books or whatever. Yeah. I'm jealous of that.
Oh, that's cool. Well, many of our stories.
Yeah.
Lee was the class punk.
I was just.
Well,
I was
seen the
not
pictures
the artist.
of you. I've seen the pictures of you in high school, and
it wasn't
pretty.
That's awesome. I mean, that's awesome that you found art and you can bring your story to the table. I mean, a lot of artists bring their artist story to the table, and
so you're doing all this art in high school, and you see this presentation, and did you know immediately, like, I want to do illustration, or was it just sort of art?
Yeah. Well, what happened was I liked her books. I like picture book art was a lot of the art that I looked at, as many kids, that's where they are introduced to art. And I had her art, I had her books. And in high school, I called her up and asked her for help with a project, or asked her actually just if she'd look at my artwork. And she was very gracious and kind and agreed to, and ended up helping with me a lot. She became my mentor. So that was in high school, and by the end of high school, I knew I wanted to go to art school. I didn't know for sure I wanted to do picture books. I kind of knew that I had this experience with art, but wanted to learn different ways or different things. I didn't want to pigeonhole myself. I kind of was aware of that as a possibility. You have this mentor, and then you just kind of get on that train and
right. Okay, so the takeaway, we like to do takeaways. So the takeaway for the listener is find the Caldecott winner in your town.
Yeah, that's right.
And ask
and ask her for help.
Right.
Okay. Awesome.
Reach out to artists. If you're a kid, or if you're in school, in high school or college, reach out to artists and ask them to look at your work. I think
that's awesome. So did she was obviously very encouraging, because you didn't.
Yeah, and I found out kind of later as as I got older and got to know more people, that she was very influential in the lives of many artists.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, for example, do you know the artist David Wiesner?
Mm-hmm.
No, who's that?
He wrote the book, or illustrated. It was a wordless picture book, so he illustrated the book Tuesday, the Caldecott winning book Tuesday, and many other wordless picture books.
Flotsam and like
3-time Caldecott medal winner.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
So crazy. Yeah. And she gave David his first job. She met him in our school
Oh,
and
nice.
basically launched his career, or was that stepping stone. Just as one example, there are many more, but I constantly running into people who are like, "Oh, you worked with Trina? Like she helped me out here."
That's so cool that she has that lineage of
It's very,
artists.
very cool. Yeah. And so anyways, I count myself very lucky to have been connected to her and had her help. She was so influential for me.
So did you stay on the East Coast when you went to college, or where'd you go to school?
I went to school at Syracuse University and studied there in the illustration program.
Did you study with Murray Tinkelman by any chance?
Yeah, Murray was. So I was kind of at Syracuse at the end of his tenure there. He left a few years after I graduated.
Interesting.
Did you know Sam Cotterill too?
No, I did not. I only know her. Basically, know her from the podcast, mostly.
Okay.
Aware of her books.
Yeah.
Right.
But really got to.
I wasn't sure if you two crossed paths or not. So.
Yeah. Oh, so I didn't know she was at Syracuse.
I think isn't that where she went to?
I believe so, but I don't know if the years were similar. I'm not sure.
Right. I know her son goes there now. So.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The other professor that there were other professors there, but the one who actually took over the program shortly after Murray left was James Ransom, who is children's picture book illustrator. Has been doing it for a long time. And he was the head of the program. And I got to know him through kind of the picture book industry after the fact. But he was there for a long time, so maybe Sam would know him.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I studied with Murray at my graduate program. He was running the Hartford program when I did.
Right. Yeah. So right. Yeah. So that's where he went after Syracuse, the Hartford program.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So you finish your degree and you are focused on picture books. How many have you done up to this point? How quick was it when you got out of school to get your first book?
20-ish. So there were some work for hire books in there in the beginning that are out of print.
Pretty-ish. Yeah, everybody has those.
I don't necessarily talk about. And it's not, people ask, if you say, I did 21 books, 4 of them they'll never find.
Right.
So after college, I moved to New York City and I got a job at a children's bookstore called Books of Wonder, which a lot of people are familiar with. So I was a bookseller there. And it happened that many of us were aspiring illustrators, authors, and editors. So
I always thought it'd be cool to work at a bookstore. Like I have this fantasy that since I'm basically self-employed, I just get a afternoon job at a bookstore and just go there for a few days a week.
It's not a bad idea. I mean, to see all the books and be around all the time.
Yeah, I know a lady who works at a picture book creator that works at my local indie sometimes. But anyways, it was a great education. I consider it kind of the last piece of the puzzle in my education. Because at Syracuse, they were the professors' backgrounds were kind of more editorial than picture books. I know Murray did picture books and the other professors did as well, but they weren't in the children's literature community. They were more
correct. They just happened to do a children's book. Yeah.
We're hired to do some books. In fact, one of the professors said to me, I like doing books except for they put words all over my artwork, and I don't like that. I'm like, well, okay. I learned at Books of Wonder that the words matter, right? Obviously.
Right.
But I never really had that education or that introduction to the picture book as an art form in school. Except I took a bookmaking class with a printmaker, which was awesome. And that's actually the reason I was like, all right, books are something I really actually care about and love, because we're making the paper and binding print, using the letterpress and stuff. But that made me think, oh, books are where I want to be with my art. And getting the job at Books of Wonder taught me about the art form and the history.
And were you already doing your own dummies, or how did the first couple books come about?
I had a portfolio, my school portfolio, and being surrounded by other aspiring creators, picture book creators, was just, probably the best part. It was kind of like, I left art school, but didn't leave the whole art community of all the students there. You know what I mean? That I know, like a lot of art artists leave art school, or art students leave school and then kind of on their own, and they lose that community, and you kind of lose the motivation or the all of the benefits that come from that, being around, surrounded by artists, right? But I gained that at the bookstore, and many of us have gone on to be published authors and have a career in children's publishing. So that was a really special place to be at that time. So that was that. I ended up, so I got some work for hire books, like I said, or some kind of entry level small publisher jobs that were really great. Great for me to learn about how to do a job. Great introduction to illustrating a book, and I learned a lot. My portfolio, my art skills were not ready for prime time. I don't think.
I mean, that's kind of important to hear from. Yeah, it's important to hear that, because a lot of people think, oh, you go to art school and then you're just ready. And that's what I thought too. And then I realized that it really is a long sort of marathon of putting all the pieces together, getting one skill but still not having the other. And then there's storytelling skills sort of come later too, even after you figure out the art stuff and the technique stuff. And it's just funny because everybody thinks, oh, if I do my first book, this is the most important one, and this is the one that has to be perfect. And you realize there's a few you sort of cut your teeth on that aren't the greatest books of all time, but you're learning the craft, over that time frame. So I think it's important for people to hear that. It's not just one and done. You go to school and then you're just, oh, I'm a professional illustrator and everything's great. Yeah,
it's so true. It's, one, I'll say there was one, in addition to having to do more art and really hone skills, right? There's like a craft of it that I had to work on. And then there was the knowledge of picture books and storytelling and how the art form works that I didn't, was figuring out, reading all the books at the store and talking to people. There was one piece of the puzzle that I really didn't get, there was an incident that kind of flipped the switch for me, which was I had the opportunity to show my portfolio to an editor, and a well-known editor who was like a big deal. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I get a face-to-face meeting with this editor, not just drop off your portfolio, they'll look at it and talk to you, whatever. It was a big deal. So I bring it in, face-to-face meeting. He looks through the portfolio and he says, okay, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to make art and get paid for it.
Right.
I mean, that's, that was where my head was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a good answer for him. And and I left realizing, man, I missed, it felt like a missed opportunity. But there was a big takeaway from that, which was, I realized that I needed to bring something more to the table than just a person who is able to make a picture of, and anything, just a skilled drawer, painter that could illustrate your book for you. That he was looking for someone that cared about what the pictures they were making and to learn what that artist cared about. And so I really I went back to the drawing board, I guess, so back to my art table thinking, okay, I'm not just going to make pictures that fill some, slot in the portfolio. Like, I'm not going to make picture of I don't have a night scene in my portfolio, I should add one. Or I don't have, an old man and a young
sort
kid.
of like it's like making a sandwich. If you're at a deli, you're like checking the boxes. Okay, I got this one and I got that one. And
I went back and said, what do I care about? I'm going to make art about what I care about. And I'm going to look and pay attention in my world outside of art, what I care about. Not just I care about, I love this artist, I'm going to copy them. Or
what was the answer that you came to with that question?
Yeah. So what happened, it all kind of, it was intentional, but it was a process of discovery. And what happened was I was on the subway one day and I read a magazine article about redwood trees. And I just got really absorbed in this article and it just stuck with me. The way that, I don't know, when something captures your imagination or your interest, it just kind of sticks in your mind. And I kept thinking about these trees and I thought maybe I could make a book about these trees. Yeah, there it is, redwoods. Yeah, I got it behind me too there. And I just started putting together a book dummy about this subject. Not as much focused on the art I wanted to make, but the story I wanted to tell, and trying to learn to make the art to serve the story, right? To serve something outside of itself. And that was just a total game changer for me. And I showed it to a friend at Books of Wonder, who showed it to his editor. He had been published by Neil Porter. That's my editor now. His name is George O'Connor. I don't know if you know George's work. He does a series called The Olympians, graphic novels of Greek myths, the Olympians series, which is done now. He's done all 12 Olympians.
Wow, that's huge. So much
one book for each. Yeah, he was working on it for a long time. And now he's doing Norse myths, which is actually he's been on that for a few years.
Staying in his lane.
Yeah, I mean, he does other things too. He does what was I'm blanking on these other comics he illustrates. Awesome Man or something. Like comics for young readers.
Yeah.
But that's kind of his bread and butter, are the Greek myths, Norse myths. Anyways, he was doing that with Neil, and then I at Roaring Brook Press, he said, "Well, do you mind if I show your book dummy to my editor?" And I'm like, "Do I mind? Please do." And that's how
this is the Redwoods book dummy.
This was the Redwoods book dummy, which was pencil sketches
old were you?
and a manuscript. I was 20. Let's see, that was 2007. So,
okay, so to put
I was in my late 20s.
To put it in chronological
8
order,
years after 28, maybe. Yeah.
The takeaway is first, step one, talk to the Caldecott winning person in your neighborhood. Yeah. And then step two is show your book dummy to your friend who has a famous editor.
Yeah.
And
There's so many pieces of my like story that are so lucky.
yeah, I mean, that's
Like,
definitely
it's like
in the luck,
happened
but
at the right place,
you're
right
doing
time.
you're doing the work though. I mean, that sort of is the illustrated example, so to speak, of preparation meets opportunity, right? And
Well, there's two parts there. It's because a lot of times people are like, a lot of artists I know just want to stay inside and do their thing and not do the networking or the friend
Yeah.
making or go out and put themselves out there and just hope that their artwork gets discovered. I've missed the part. How did you become friends with Greg?
George. Yeah.
Or George, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
George.
O'Connor. Yep. George. So he was the shipping department at the bookstore. So his job was boxing books and unboxing books, and
It's really
that
that's a good
Yeah.
point though.
It
it'd be
is
interesting. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's really you have to do the work, right? You have to learn to make the art. You need to hone your craft. But art is about communication, and you have to find the people that want to pay you for it, hopefully, and share it with people. And
Wouldn't it be interesting if everybody had to do 3 years at a bookstore? If you say, if you want to be a children's book illustrator, it's mandatory. That kind of like a requirement that you work at a bookstore for 3 years.
That would be killer. I did.
Not any bookstore. I mean, like, I take that back. Any bookstore is great, but for me, it was the piece of the puzzle that made it more different than any other bookstore was that the people there cared about children's books.
Right.
Books of Wonder.
So you go into Barnes and Noble, and sometimes the bookseller in the children's section doesn't really care that much.
Right.
Lee, have you been to Books of Wonder before?
I have, yeah.
It's such a special bookstore. Like it's almost like I have to stop there every time I go to New York City, just because it's you number one, they have a great collection, great assortment of books, but they also just are so about the craft and the artistry and the community of it. So it just always feels like something's going on at that place.
They do a lot of events, and I mean, that was another part of it that was special, was that all of the New York-based authors and illustrators that had, which is a lot, that had a new book would come through, and they would have a Caldecott event every year, and the Caldecott winner was there signing books. So
that's cool.
Van Allsburg and Macaulay and Wiesner and go down the list. McClintock and I think Jane Yolen came. Well, she's an author, but she came in. I don't know. Julie Andrews came in. She wrote a children's book.
Wow.
I have flap books for Julie Andrews.
I mean, you just sort of named, minus Maurice Sendak, you sort of named I don't know if he came through, if you ever met him, but you.
I did, yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay,
yeah.
So that's like the Mount Rushmore of illustrators, right there.
Yeah, that's true.
Allsburg, Sendak, Wiesner, and fill in the gap for the fourth one. But
yeah. So yes. So Maurice Sendak didn't come to the store. He wasn't doing public appearances, but he had a relationship with the store and the owner, and allowed the owner to drive boxes of books up to his house to have him sign them. And then so then I was like the assistant on one of those trips to his house, which was awesome.
Oh my goodness.
And he was like, "Get out of here. What are you doing here? It's your books, Mr. Sendak." Okay, fine.
He was so funny. He was hilarious. He was very
I mean,
gracious
I
being
just want
able
to take a second to, I mean, every city isn't going to have a bookstore like
Yeah.
that, but you will have at least every city that I've been to, I always check out the independent bookstores, and almost every city I have been to, a bigger city, has had something close to that. Like when I was in LA, like every picture tells a story, and Storyopolis. And then when I was in Nashville, I mean, like and Portland had a couple of them, Green Bean Books and a few different ones. So I do want to just take a moment for this public service announcement to, if you haven't gone to your independent bookstores in your city or the cities around you, go check them out and support these bookstores. I mean, they can be amazing places like you're talking about, and that one's sort of the pinnacle of it, but they're all so good. And
Yeah.
the one thing that has been consistent is everyone is so into it. I mean, they are not there just to get a paycheck. They love this stuff. And it's incredible. And especially if you've been, they have author and artist signings. Jake did an event at Green Bean Book. Go check these things out, because I do think that we've become a society that is, I'll just stay online. I'm just going to stay in my room. I'm going to just stay where I am, instead of getting out and supporting your local community. And you're kind of a classic example of, I met this person, and you're not meeting them for gain, like what can they do for me, but it's just sort of this how things happen, like, this person knows this person, and all the pieces sort of play out, but the intent is just genuine connection, and that's the starting point, right?
And I've been like kind of naming all these artists, right, that have big names in children's literature coming through, but they don't just go to New York. Right. So I live in Burlington, Vermont, and the local independent bookstore in the smaller town next to Burlington had Mac Barnett and John Clausen come through. And John Cheska came through, and Lauren Long came through, if you know their names.
Oh, yeah.
So Burlington's not a big city. And so I imagine that all around the country there are artists and illustrators and
you just have to get on the newsletters, the email lists for the bookstores. They'll tell you who's coming through.
Right.
So I want to change gears just for a second. I want to eat my dessert. I've been waiting for this sort of topic. All these books are great. Every one of your books are great, but there's one that's different than the rest of them so far, and that is this one with the circles on it.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about these circles. So we're looking at a book called Watercress, and so Jason's done a bunch of books. He's obviously living the life of a picture book author, illustrator, and this book. Obviously, we're looking, if you're watching the YouTube channel, there's a Caldecott circle on there. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see the other ones. Is that a Society of Illustrators sticker?
It is a Caldecott medal, a Newbery honor, and an Apala award. Apala is a group, the Asian Pacific Islander Librarians Association.
Gotcha.
Which is part of, it's like a subset of a American Library Association.
Okay, so this has really the trifecta. The Newbery
Gold, silver, and
Caldecott. It's amazing. And so Jake and I were just chatting about it because we, it's every illustrator's dream to have these stickers on the front of their book, and we wanted to talk about sort of how this played out, because we don't know, because we're just lowly illustrators without the circles on our books. So how early did you know? So Watercress is published. When it was in development, were your editors and art directors, was there already a buzz about this book, or was it just another one in the sequence? I mean, of course, you're trying to make them all Caldecott winners. We all are. But was there a buzz about it, or how did this sort of unfold?
There was, no buzz or talk of awards certainly during the creation or the during my work, don't think about awards when you're making art.
Okay,
Just
that's
make
good
it
because
best
my
art you
first
can make.
sentence on my pitches is always, "This will win a Caldecott," and they don't like
It
that.
just, it's not why you should make art.
Right.
Art's not a competition.
Right.
So that's that. During production, nobody talks about awards or anything. I think what we think about, the author and I and the editor, art director, always is just making a meaningful book for the child reader, for the kids. So it's always like, is this going to be a good book for a kid? Is this going to be meaningful, or for the reader? So that's where the focus is during the creation of the book. After it's out and we have copies before it's on sale, then the publicity team is bringing it to stores and libraries and trying to get people to order it and keep it on the shelves, and then bring it to reviewers. So there's a review process that starts before the book is after it's printed, or when it's being printed. Some reviewers review from from PDFs, or from what's called F&Gs. It's called folded and gathers. It's printed pages that have been folded up but not bound yet.
Right.
So they have there's no cover on it. It's all just folded pages kind of nested together. So there's the review process that happens early on, and I think that kind of starts to set the stage for the kind of awards committees to start looking at books. So there are all different awards out there, but we'll talk about the Caldecott Newbery. Those committees are reading books all year long, so they're reading hundreds and hundreds of books. And Caldecott is looking at illustrated books, which are primarily picture books. Newbery is looking at primarily chapter books, so they have a much bigger task to read hundreds of books. So they have their system for doing it. They keep their whole system and the committee's deliberations and how they come to their decision. That's all kept under wraps. So I don't know how they came to their conclusion. But there are 15 people on the committee, and they all have to agree on the winner. So they have a whole system for coming to their consensus.
So do you know that this review process is happening, and do you have any idea?
I know, it happens every year. Yes, I know it's happening now for 2020.
Well, but I mean, was there any? Did you have any idea that this book was in contention? I guess when was the first that you got wind of that?
So it depends on, not depends. You get an idea of, the buzz if books are getting lots of positive reviews and starred reviews. So I'll refer your listeners to your past podcast episode about starred reviews.
Right.
Explain that, which I listened to, which was great. So, no, but in brief, these publications like the Horn Book or Kirkus will review books and give them positive or maybe not so positive reviews. And for certain books, every issue, they will select out as to give a star. It doesn't, if you get a star, it's really good. You're like, they really liked your book. It's not like a 1 out of 5 stars.
Right.
Right.
So, a star or not a star.
A star or not a star. That's it. Right. So Watercress received a lot of starred reviews. Just I think almost all of the major review publications gave it a star, as I remember. And nothing like that had happened. A lot of my books get a starred review or a couple of star reviews. This one got like 6 or 7 or something like that, which is,
that's huge.
There are 6 or 7 review publications maybe 8.
Right.
Right. So
They're
you're starting
online
to,
ones, so I don't know. I
right.
try not to pay too much attention to it, to be honest.
But you are starting to notice, hey, oh, this
But
is
you notice,
this is a good book.
whoa, that's big. Now, that doesn't translate into an award. It's the 15 people on the committee's opinion, about which book to give the award to. But when a book gets a lot of strong reviews like that, you can be pretty sure it's in the conversation.
Yeah.
And so, that's a win. That's a huge win in itself.
Right.
To be in the conversation is, I don't know the numbers of how many picture books are published every year, but it's in the thousands.
Yeah.
It's
too
and
many.
to be in the conversation of a couple hundred books that are being considered or
Right.
right. That's huge, and huge for, say, not necessarily. Yes, for sales, for library sales, it's huge. That doesn't necessarily put your book on the New York Times bestseller list.
Right.
It doesn't turn, it doesn't mean it's going to stay in print forever.
Right.
But it's really huge for feeling like it's very validating, and that's
Right.
huge for any artist. It's very validating.
So moving into Caldecott season, and obviously they're doing these mock Caldecotts. For those of you guys who don't know,
Yeah,
what
those
that is,
are November, December.
right.
The mock
So there's
Caldecotts are
all
happening
these
in
little,
schools, and
right. And you pick them, and I'm sure yours.
Wait, what?
along
Explain
with
that.
another-
What's a mock Caldecott?
so it's the ones that I know about are happening in schools, in classrooms. So the librarian at the school will say, okay, we're going to do a mock Caldecott unit. All the kids in the school are going to read 10 books that the librarian selects, and the librarian will select some nonfiction books, some funny books, some more serious books, a variety that are kind of in the have the buzz or whatever. It could be the one, and then has all the kids read them throughout November, and then in December the school kids will vote. This is actually the best part about the Caldecott and awards to me, is that it gets kids looking at art and discussing the art, because they go into the library and they say, oh, I like this one because I like the way that the artist used color to convey mood. And it gets kids thinking that way, and it's a great way to teach visual literacy. So that's what the mock Caldecotts are. And some of the publications, like some of the blogs, will do their own mock Caldecotts, or run, the readers who are librarians and teachers will vote.
Gotcha.
And do their thing. So that's in November, December, and then the Caldecotts are announced in January, and the Caldecott committee decides the weekend of the ALA conference. They get together and they do their voting and go through the process over that weekend. They've been talking before that and having meetings. So, again, this process is kind of opaque. It's purposefully. It's not supposed to be widely known how it works. But they decide that weekend, and then they tell the artist traditionally on Monday morning, several hours before the award is announced to the public.
So can you describe that phone call? Is it a phone call that you got?
Traditionally a phone call. We were still in kind of the tail end of the pandemic when Watercress won. So they were meeting virtually, and so they weren't all in the same room. So they decided to have a Zoom call. So
Gotcha.
To set it up, to make sure that I was going to come onto the Zoom call at the right time, they told my editor to ask if I'd do a presentation at ALA, and present my next book.
Okay,
Oh, really?
so they're keeping it
Fake.
under wraps. They still want to make it.
So
a
then
surprise.
I got on Zoom, like sitting right here in my studio, and I had like my book ready to show and some artwork to hold up, and I was getting all prepared and I was preparing what I was going to say. And then this, and I was like, "Hey, everybody," like starting to talk, and they were like, "Shh, be quiet. We have something to say." And then they read. There's kind of like an announcement. It kind of goes like, on behalf of the committee, they read the committee name, and ALA, we would like to inform you that you are the recipient of the Randolph Caldecott Medal.
No way.
Oh my goodness!
So they hit record. So there's a video of people jaw dropping, like speechless.
I mean,
What's going
how
through your
did that
mind?
feel? Yeah, I mean, what? How long
like
did it take
all
to
the
process?
emotions, like joy and surprise, and a little bit of not fear, but like a little apprehension too. Like, this is a big
Mm-hmm.
a big moment, and just gratitude. That would, when the all the emotions started to settle, it was gratitude. It's a big one. And actually, I thought a lot about Trina, because this is her Caldecott book, and this desk. You can't see the desk online, but I inherited her desk after she passed away.
Oh wow!
So I painted. And her desk is my desk. This is my desk now, but but it was hers. So it was just like, this is the desk that book was painted at.
Right.
Now-
It's the Caldecott
Now
desk.
it's
Now
the
we
desk.
all need that
Right.
desk.
So that's the last tip for your listeners.
Magic Caldecott desk.
Yeah. I mean, it just felt it was like that whole like thing. I don't know. When I was a kid and I learned about the Calder, I told you, I was like, "Oh, you can get medals for art? Awesome! I want one." And then as you grow up, you learn, oh, art actually isn't a competition. It's not about medals. It's not about on the one hand, you're always trying to improve your art, and you guys use the phrase "level up" a lot, which is great. But the only caveat to that is that art isn't really like a linear set of levels to attain, right?
Right.
sure.
It's a journey, it's a path, or whatever, and it's not a competition, and so you don't. I learned in my career, I'm not actually making art to win something or to be the best at something. I'm making art for the reader. I'm making art about something, redwood trees, that I care deeply about, and the point of the art is to communicate that feeling or ideas. And so
I love how humble you are about winning this and sharing sort of the win with the other people that sort of built your career up or that helped you. I feel like if I got this phone call, I would do the Rocky run where I run through my
Well, there's a little bit of that too. There's a little bit of that
I feel like there's a statue of me on top of some stairs.
So one of the thoughts for me, because I found out on Saturday night. So one of my thoughts was like, if the reader doesn't, if the listeners don't know, Andrea Wong, who wrote this book based on a childhood experience. So it's semi-autobiographical. So the whole time I was illustrating it, I was, very aware that I was putting the author in her own book, which is,
Right.
and so this is a very personal story to her. It wouldn't exist without her. It's not just it's more than a book that she wrote. It's a book she wrote about herself, and so I there was a little feeling of like, wow, I'm going to get this huge award for Andrea's story.
Right.
So when she received a Newbery honor for the book, that's the silver medal that's on there.
Yep.
That kind of that was like the Rocky run.
Right.
She called me the next day and said, our book has a Newbery honor. And it was like, that was when it was just like confetti.
Yeah, huge.
So
I get to celebrate with her. We both got recognized. It was awesome.
I wanted to ask you, Grand Canyon actually won a honor.
It did, yeah.
So what was the difference between receiving an honor versus receiving the award?
Well, emotionally similar, because when I was told about the honor, I was like, oh my God, this is the pinnacle. It's never gonna get any better than this. Like it was just, and I wrote that book, so there was a little bit more like Rocky run, right?
Right.
A little bit less like humility, I guess. The Caldecott medal is there's I don't know, it's another level in terms of it's been going for like 80 something years, right? So there have been 80 medals given, and they're repeat winners. So maybe 60 people have received. I mean, 60 awards have been given out, but they give out like 4 honors every year. And but the medal, I guess it was like looking like, oh, the Polar Express won this, Where the Wild Things won this. Go down the list of my, the Snowy Day won this, like the Mount Rushmore of children's books. And this book is on that list. My name is on the list with
Watercrest.
And Watercrest. And it's that is like a whole, it's hard to believe still. I mean,
so
it's been a few years.
So after you've won, that was 2021. So after you won, I'm curious about how your relationships changed in the industry. Was there an expectation on you that maybe wasn't there before? Did your career change in terms of finances? Like all of a sudden, like, well, this is a Caldecott winner, so let's throw a bunch of money at him. Was there more offers?
Yeah, there was some big changes. I think. Well, I would say after around the time of the Caldecott honor for Grand Canyon, I was like, okay, I feel stable. I feel like financially stable. It took some pressure off of like the hustle that was happening anyways before that, but it like that the medal kind of really like
sealed it,
made me confident. Okay, I am. This is going to be a stable career. Anyway, so that was that. I think the Caldecott medal also did that, and then also it does change things. You walk into the room as people know the book and your name, so there is a little shift to one Newbery. I met a lady who won the Newbery, and she said, "Oh, it's like having the green jacket from whatever the golf green
The Masters, yeah.
Masters.
Well,
Like you're always welcome in any
right. And
in the
in
children's
every
book.
book moving forward, it's by Caldecott winning medalist Jason Chin, not just illustrator Jason Chin.
Right. And so then there's the financial benefit, which is like every library in the country. Then maybe not now. I don't know. Buys the book. And so that's a windfall for sure.
Yeah.
Which then and the book stays in print forever. That's another thing, is that it's not going to be a bestseller forever. People are going to forget about it. I don't know all of the Caldecott winners from the 40s, but they are still in print and they're still available, and that story will stay available and on shelves.
That's got to be so gratifying to know that's it's always going to be there. It's always going to be in the conversation. Like
that's really, it's one of the other ones like that, like looking back at the past winners and being like, wow, I'm connected to them through this. And then looking forward to say, oh, it's going to be there, after I'm gone. That's kind of
legacy, so to speak.
A legacy. And that's hard to wrap my mind around, and very special.
So is it harder to go through? Oh, go ahead, Jake.
You go ahead, and then I got to follow.
I was just going to say, is it harder to go through, assuming you get more offers now, so is it harder to sort of pick and choose what the next projects are going to be? Or are you just saying, okay, I'm going to write all my own from now on? Or so how do you navigate what the future is once you have that?
Well, I've been I've been working with the same editor since Redwood, so 15 years with the same editor and art director. He moved to a new publisher. I went with him. And we have a good rhythm, and it's been very successful, obviously, and I'm not interested in changing that. I love working with him. I love the rhythm we're in. So I illustrate a book by another author, and then I write and illustrate my own. I go back and forth.
Oh, interesting.
I have kind of a comfortable pace that's working. I do get itches to do a different kind of art sometimes. Other offers do come in, but so far I haven't taken offers with other publishers. I'm very comfortable with my publisher where I'm at, and it's good. It's working. But one of the reasons I started listening to your podcast is that you talk about art that's not children's literature, and the different avenues for illustration and the different perspectives on illustration. And I'm so enmeshed, and I've been so focused on children's literature and the library world and the school and library world and bookstore world. Where it's just so refreshing to hear people talk about comic books and going to Comic-Con, or like making games.
Right.
Like doing a Kickstarter and making a game with your art. And I was like, oh yeah, there's all these other ways.
Do you make other art on the side, aside from children's stuff, just for personal work, or what's that look like?
Yeah, I'll show you. It looks like
we're getting a tour of the studio right now. Oh, wow, that's like gorgeous.
Watercolors. I've been trying to learn how to paint watercolor.
I love it. Are most of your books in watercolor?
Yeah, they're all in watercolor. Except for
so you're still trying to learn.
Pen and ink and watercolor. This is pen and ink and watercolor.
That'll show you guys how hard watercolor is. It takes even after he's done 1 million books, he's still trying to learn watercolor. I don't think you could ever get to the end of that.
Yeah. So here's how I got listening to the podcast. I was at a conference in SCBWI. Do you know that one? So it's for aspiring, like beginning people who are trying to break into children's books.
Yep.
And a attendee asked me a question about style and like how to discover her style or how to develop her style, and I started to give one thought on that, and then another artist interrupted and said, oh, don't pay attention to style, just pay attention to make your art what you love and your style will emerge or whatever. And so I was like, this is an interesting kind of question or debate, right? Like, how do you reach style? So I was like, I wonder if anyone else has talked about this. And I discovered your episode on style, and I was like, that was a great discussion. What else do I have to say? So I started listening to all the other discussions, and I was like, this is so useful for me because these are like discussions that I would have if I had more artists to talk to who are just doing art. Like I talk about books and children's literature a lot and how words and pictures work and which books are working and which ones I love. But not just like the nitty gritty about like, how do you make a picture? Like what makes a good line? What makes a good palette, as we were discussing, right? And then Lee, you talked about, I don't know what it was, just going on this journey of rediscovering watercolor or trying to relearn how to paint watercolors. You did a workshop.
Really understand it. Yeah.
And really understand it, right? I was like, yeah, that resonates. So that really resonates with me because I have a way of doing it that, I was trained in picture making at Syracuse generally, but not specifically in watercolor. And I want to know, like, I found a paper that I like. I just do it always on that. But like, I want to know, like, what are the other papers?
Yeah,
right.
More
I have these colors that I use all the time, but like, what about the other ones? And like, why would I don't know.
It's, I mean, it's endless. That's exactly the question of why I started building the watercolor essentials workshop that I did, is because I test all that stuff. And so I started making a notebook and a log of how things react differently. And because watercolor, unlike all the other mediums, is so dependent on technique and materials working together in a certain way. And if you pick the wrong paper or the wrong pigment or the wrong brush, it will not do the thing you want it to do. Whereas acrylic and oil, you can just keep layering and all that stuff. So I definitely have a kinship with you there. I wanted to go deep and understand it. I felt like I was sort of just guessing. And I, like you, I had my certain materials that I would stick with. But I was like, I'd see some other artists and I'd be like, how are they getting that look? So,
and I've been doing like a kind of more of a going on Pinterest and just looking at other watercolor artists who are just watercolor artists, not, for my
picture book, right?
For the last 15 years, I've been looking at picture book artists and how they make pictures for picture books and what's working there. And I've developed my own, opinion, technique, and approach, I guess, around that. And I have ideas how to construct a narrative in pictures in 32 pages and how the picture should interact with the words and what's in, I have all of that kind of knowledge base, but I never developed knowledge base of how other people do watercolor. The difference between Wyeth watercolor and Reed, what's his name? Charles Reed watercolor. Like, what are they doing differently? And I've never gone deep.
I wish I would have taken a Charles Reed workshop when he was alive. Yeah. He just passed away a few years ago and missed out on that opportunity. So I'm right there with you. I'm starting to take live workshops from other people, and it's amazing. I mean, that's what I'm always encouraging people on the podcast now, is to get out and study with somebody, because like that Mark Foley workshop I did last year, it was a 3-day workshop. There was just one moment that what he did, and he wasn't even talking about what he was doing. He was just doing his thing.
Yeah.
And I saw what he did. And I was like, oh man, I'm taking that. And it like has shifted how I think about my watercolor. And I realized that there's, you're not going to get everything from a workshop. Like the whole time is not going to be like, oh, that's new and that's new and that's new. It's going to be little bits that sort of like click, you know what I mean? That change your application. I feel like there's there's going to be a gallery show in your future. Because you're starting to go down this path. It sounds very familiar.
There's a show right now. Do you know the Nickel Museum, the National Center for Children's Illustrated Literature? It's
I don't.
I've heard of it.
Abilene, Texas.
Yeah. Oh, I've been there actually.
You've been there. Yeah.
I don't even know this at all.
It's really, there's a whole story behind it that's so cool. But they put together a show every year of an illustrator's work, a children's illustrator's work, and then it's up in their gallery for 6 months or something, and then it travels for 2 years. So right now my artwork is in Orlando.
Oh, wow.
In the gallery in Orlando, and it was in South Dakota, and I can't remember where else.
Is it just a show, or is the work for sale? Like, can people buy originals of your work?
Yeah, it's just a show. But my work is for sale at the R. Michelson Gallery in Northampton, Massachusetts.
I've been surfing that website this whole time, looking at all your pieces.
Hey, will you send me that link, Jake? I want to see that gallery.
It's in your texts.
Oh, okay.
They have, so they're great. And if any of the listeners or viewers are ever in the Northampton kind of Western Mass area, that's Amherst, Northampton, Five Sisters College area. There's the R. Michelson Gallery and the Eric Carle Museum of Picture Book Art are there, and well worth. If you're in the area, you got to go. If you're an illustrator or into
these are all so good. I mean, there's so much work.
Let me
here.
ask
oh, my
you.
goodness.
Grand Canyon won an honor. Watercress won the medal. But those, just because other people picked those books as the ones that were worthy of the award that year, doesn't mean they're your favorite.
Yeah.
Do you have do you have a favorite book that you've done, or a favorite illustration from the books that you've done where you're like, man, that was it? I was firing on all cylinders on that one.
I'd say I have an illustration. There's like usually one in every book where I'm like, I feel really good about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more than one, but
okay.
Exactly.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
One that I'm like, that's the one where I nailed it, and
I got the face
I'm
right,
just
I got the lighting right.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep everything close, everything else in the book close to that, right? But that's being an artist and being self-critical.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So there's that, and then every books have different lives. There's the life of the book when you're making it, and your relationship. I say lives. I have a different relationship to the book when I'm making it. So my book might be behind. There's a book I did about the Galapagos Islands called Island, and that one, for whatever reason, was a joy to put together. There was no major roadblock. There was no major mental struggle where I felt like I wanted to throw the whole thing out. Usually there is. I think other artists will be familiar with that. So that was that. Now, after the book is out, it becomes, a story. It becomes all the reader's book too, right? It has a different life. And I would say that Watercress has, it's different than the nonfiction books I do. And that story has reached people who really needed it. And I've heard from people about what it meant to them that was really, really special. So it's just for the viewers. It's a story about immigrants, and so they're Chinese immigrants in the 70s, and kind of about growing up with a foot in two cultures. So the protagonist has this experience and then has to work through it. And, adults have written to us saying, that was my experience, and I never knew anyone else felt that way. And kids have said to me, like, it sparked discussions about being poor, or I don't want to say being poor, but there's a lot about thrift in the book because the family doesn't have a lot of money, and kids will say, oh, we have to me, like, I have to get used stuff too. And it's giving them the opportunity to express something that they don't often get to talk about, or maybe feel ashamed about talking about. So that, like, that is very meaningful. And then there's just the fact that, you get tired of talking about books that have been around for a long time. So the new book, my new book is my favorite one to talk about right now.
Let's talk about it.
It's about hurricanes.
When did that one come out?
It came out I wrote this one. It came out in May, right before hurricane season, which was important.
Perfect.
You don't want your hurricane book to come out after a devastating hurricane.
Right.
You want it to come out before.
Right.
A lot of the book is about preparing for hurricanes.
Is it like a singular family that it focuses on? Like, oh crap,
yeah,
there's a hurricane.
So there's the hurricane. There it is.
That's great.
And it's coming. So there's three stories. There's the story of the hurricane, the story of the meteorologists, and hurricane hunters are in here too. So they're predicting the hurricane, and then their forecast reaches Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, and the family there is preparing for the hurricane. So there they are, just learning about it.
That's cool.
Is this total fiction, or is this based on a actual family?
So it's nonfiction, but the story and the hurricane in it is fictional, and so the story in the book is fictional. It's based on basically three storms that hit, Cape Hatteras, one of which continued on to impact Vermont. And so there's like kind of a connection there about, that information there. Hurricanes don't just impact the coast, they keep going and then flood, especially now they're wetter than they've ever been, flood places far from the coast.
What made you want to do this book?
It was the suggestion of my editor. I had another project that I had proposed, and we were actually close to having a contract signed for it. And then I found out that a friend of ours was doing a book on the exact same topic, and we were like, oh, this, that's not going to work out.
Right. At least spread them out.
Yeah. Like
a few years apart from each other.
It was, do you know the author Brian Floca?
Oh, yeah.
Right, Brian Floca. So is Brian Floca. And he and I do very similar books. We write and illustrate books about science and nature, nonfiction picture books.
Because he won the Caldecott like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for Locomotive. Yeah. That's right. We should get him.
So I was like, okay, well, like, we can't, Brian, it doesn't make sense for Brian and I both to have the same book coming out. Let's rethink this. Point. Maybe my book can be about that topic, but at a different angle. And then my editor said, well, what about hurricanes? And I said, let me do some research and see what you want to be passionate about the topic. I want to be passionate about the topic before I go into it, or have some sense that it will be meaningful and exciting to work on, right? I don't want to take a topic because my editor liked it, and I'm like, it's a bear work on. Then I started reading about hurricanes. I got really interested in the meteorological side of things and how they're predicted and how they're forecast and how people stay safe, and that whole science of that is just really cool. And the physics of meteorology, the physics of the weather, the physics of hurricanes.
Did you do any storm chasing?
I did not do storm chasing. I'm not. My tolerance for risk has gone down exponentially every year. Every birthday, I'm like, I have less tolerance for risk. But I am grateful to the people who do fly into hurricanes to predict them and do that work. And I think the people that just do storm chasing to take a video that they can then sell to the news. There's like a whole groups of people that make that their freelance.
What a weird job that would be.
I think it's crazy. I don't advocate for it, but I'm very grateful for their footage because it helps me a lot. Reference.
I love that. I love that stage of a book where you are starting to learn a topic, that might be in the book or some kind of theme, and you start doing this research. It's my favorite part of the book, maybe more so than illustrating the book. Is like just starting to learn about this new thing that I never really thought about, or some angle I didn't think about. I remember I wrote this book a long time ago. It got into acquisitions, but never got published. But it was about this kid who wants to set a world record. I did this gallery show of people who set weird world records. And so I thought it would be a cool book. And so I wrote this book. And then as it was going through acquisitions, I thought, I've done all this research on world records and stuff. I want to set, if the book gets published, I'm going to try to set a world record for the launch. And so then I went down this whole path of...
Yeah, that's cool.
So the world record that I wanted to set, although the publishers I was talking to said this is a bad idea, but I wanted to set a world record for the most world records attempted but failed. And so I would be the only person who got in there for not doing something, but it never got.
You should have done the highest book launch. So tie your book to a rocket. And
there you go.
Actually launch it.
There is some of the weirdest.
I wrote a book called Gravity, and it's around here somewhere, but I would hold it up if I could reach it. But anyways, the title is just Gravity, and my idea for the book launch was to get a bunch of kids to go to the rooftop of their school and throw the book off.
Nice.
Well, the librarians didn't like that idea.
Yeah, we are not going to put a bunch of kids on the roof.
Bring kids to the book to destroy books, but to the roof to destroy books. But I thought
maybe they could throw a paper airplane off or something. I mean, anything's going to fall, so it matches the topic, I guess.
Right.
So the last book, the most recent book, is about hurricanes. Can you fill us in on sort of what project is next, or is that under wraps?
It's not under wraps. It's been announced. I'm working on a sequel to Watercress.
Cool. Wow. Yeah. Watercress 2.
So, Electric Boogaloo.
Return of the Watercress.
It's been great. It's interesting. You kind of alluded to the fact that it's very different from my other books, and because I normally do nonfiction about science and nature, but this book stylistically was a little different as well. Kind of looser watercolor, different. I used a hot cold press paper, so there's a little more texture to the paper. So I find like this summer or this fall, I've been trying to remember how I kind of painted that one so that I can do it in the same style. And I'm definitely getting there. But I've never done a sequel that's like specifically a sequel.
Right.
Is it going to be the same characters and you have to revisit them?
And that's the big thing is like, I did that one in 2020, right? 2022 Caldecott medal, published in 2021. So I did the art in 2020.
Yeah. So it's been a while.
And so it's been a while since I've drawn that character, and I'm like, oh.
Is the character older in the second one, or is it a continuation of that similar time frame?
Similar time frame, same time frame.
Okay, that's good at least. Is
So
you can, because
I don't
if you
have
take
to
somebody like
Right.
2 or 3 years, that's really hard.
Yeah, that I in my skill set, I would say my one of my weak points, or one of the things I struggle with the most, is character consistency. I've never. It's hard. And
You're not
like,
alone.
Yeah. And I don't, I don't I didn't come out of like us. I came at art from kind of like I don't know, the Syracuse University, Rockwell, Pyle, NCYF kind of way of making art, which is more painterly or whatever, more realistic painterly, and not kind of the cartooning or animation side of things, where you learn to simplify shapes and which
build from basic shapes up to something.
Yeah. I learned all right, memorize how to draw a skull. Then then memorize where the muscles go on that skull, and then lay skin over those muscles.
Oh man, yeah, that's the hard way around, right
And
there.
then,
That's tough.
and then, and go from there, and it's great training, but it's not doesn't I don't know, it's made it, I think, a little harder for me to find that character consistency. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my excuse.
I mean, it's a tough subject. One of the ways that I'm trying to, I also deal with that same problem, and I realize that making a book takes such a long period of time that from the first opening spread to the last one, I might be slightly shifted. I'm a different person 6 months later.
Like
and
25 pieces of art later.
Right.
Learn
And
something.
so what I'm trying to do now is go through, make all the dummy, do all the sketches for the dummy, and sort of get the general position of the character on all the pages and what that character is doing, and then literally do a character sheet from the book, like where I'm just drawing all the positions that a character is going to be in the book. And because I'm working digitally now,
smart.
I can just drop it in because it was all made at the exact same moment.
Right. Yeah. So it's when I did Hurricane, I did there's all these scenes of satellite view of the hurricane with forecast cones superimposed over top of it. So I did all of those at once, so that
Perfect.
That the same colors, same style,
Right. I don't think a lot of people realize how hard it is to do that, because it's such a long period of time that it's in development, that it can be months between paintings that people are going to thumb through in seconds, so
right.
But for us, it's kind of hard.
Well,
right, we should probably wrap at some point.
Sure.
Yeah, we've been going about an
I
hour
didn't
and a
get to
half.
ask you my question.
Oh no, please do. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. It is fine. I was just going to ask, because Jake, you come at it from the comic and cartooning side of things. Is any of this different for you in terms of book development or character consistency or that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'll tell you, working in animation, that was like my first career. You learned a lot of the animation way of doing things. So you just pick up, number one, you're not alone by yourself in your studio working every day.
Yeah.
You're in a room of 15 to 20 of the best artists you have ever met in your life.
That's awesome.
And different ages and experience too. And so every day you're just picking up little things. Oh, how'd you do that? Oh, how'd you do this? Every time people are showing We have weekly meetings where people show the work they did the week before, and the director, make that nose bigger and do this. And you're just, I don't know. It was such the perfect thing for me to do because I never went to art school. I just sort of
Okay.
stumbled my way into animation, and and so when I shifted over to children's books and comics, I took that sensibility with me of doing the concept art and doing the character model sheets where you actually like figure out the character first and then refer back to that as you're drawing it. Not to say that I'm perfect at it or the best at it. I'm still like, I'm filling up a sketchbook right now with faces and heads because I realized I'd atrophied in that regard over the years. And so, there's this constant, the thing I love about art is you don't age out of it like basketball or football or something. Like,
Yeah.
you just keep learning and keep getting better, almost like a musical instrument or something. So,
Yeah.
so as long as you're the mindset that you have, like, oh, I'm going to learn from Lee White, or I'm going to, go take this other workshop here, or I'm going to ask Jake about this, or anything to improve and to get better is like, I think the way forward for like the perfect artist career,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then just letting that go back into your work. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. 100%. Yeah. Hey, that's the only thing that's what keeps it interesting for me is learning something too. It's not like, oh man, I have to learn more today. It's like, oh, I'll
It's
try
exciting.
This will be fun. It's like, although I do feel that that idea that sometimes things atrophy, that I do feel that. Oh man,
if you don't do it, you lose it.
It's not, there's two feelings that I always get like that. It's one of this thing atrophying that I haven't done in a long time. And the two is I see so much great art now between Pinterest and Instagram that I'm always like, I want to be doing that. It always is a tug, to something else that I'm not doing.
That's the danger, right? Mm-hmm. That's the danger of it.
I think though I love that we personally had a good 20 years, 25 years of our life without the internet, because all of our upbringing was, and if you're like me, you were starved for illustration growing up.
Yep.
Like anytime, if you wanted to see an illustration, you had to go out into the real world and procure it. Like go to the magazine aisle and find, even like
or the black book that would come out every year, the illustrated black book and
library,
communication arts illustration annual was like a huge moment every year when that thing came out.
Right. And I remember anytime we went to the mall to get like school clothes or, for whatever Christmas shopping, I'd be like, I'll be at B. Dalton Books. You'll know where to find me. And I'm just cruising through, looking at all the book covers, looking at all the children's books and all that stuff. And so you have that background where there's this thirst for images, but also this very, very finely curated, like every image that was in your life was curated specifically. And now you have like this deluge of illustrations.
It's too much. It's so
all over
much.
the place all the time. And so I think it's good to kind of sit back and go back to that age of like, okay, let's revisit, 20 classics and just soak in that for a little bit and let that be the thing that influences us. And then we can go back out and find some more stuff.
That's such good advice.
That's a good advice.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so good.
All right. That was Jason Chin. Great guy to talk to. I'm so glad you set this up, Lee. That was awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we?
Yeah, it was just such a pleasure to talk to him. He's so earnest and forthcoming about where he is, and he's a lifelong learner. He wants to advance his career even after winning a Caldecott and an honor Caldecott. He's just going for it, and he's just sort of a true artist. So it's fun to see that.
it's fun to see that. The other thing that struck me about him is he really is a team player. Like he mentioned that the editor he'd been working with left to go to another publisher, and instead of saying "see you later," he's like, "I'm coming with you wherever you go. I'm coming with you." When
Right.
he won the Caldecott, the Caldecott is an illustration award, so his author didn't get an award for the Caldecott because it's not about the writing, but she was able to get a Newbery silver medal, right? And so he's like, he didn't want to take full credit for the book, even though it's a picture book and he's the illustrator. He's like, well, it's not my
Right.
story. I was just helping bring her story to life. So it's just cool that he's so willing to. He's so humble about
Yeah. Yeah.
the work that he's doing. So
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'm so not humble that every year I hold a mock Caldecott just around my own house, and it's only my books. So that's
that's hilarious.
it's a 100% win.
And there I did it again. I won, even though I didn't
Another
even
one.
do a book this year.
I'm just using the Caldecotts as paperweights at this point because I have so many.
Yeah, that's hilarious. All right, well, I'll take us out here. Everybody, thank you for joining us. 3-Point Perspective is made possible by SVS Learn, where becoming a great illustrator starts. Your hosts today were myself, Jake Parker, and Lee White, my compadre here. And of course, we had Jason Chin here in this interview. Just a shout out to our team that makes this podcast and everything we do at SVS Learn possible. Special thanks to Daniel Tu, our producer, Preston Smith, our team manager, Austin Shirtliff, our keeper of the community, Lily Howell, our show notes wrangler, Lisa Fott, our chief operations officer, and our illustrator, Annalise Black. Now, go draw something.